Ever seen the movie Asterisk 300 Asterisk? The epic tale of a few hundred Spartan warriors holding off a massive army? It's one of the most legendary last stands in history. But what if I told you that incredible battle was just one small part of a much larger 50-year conflict that would define the course of Western civilization? This is the story of the Greco-Persian Wars, a true clash of empires that pitted the fledgling city-states of Greece against the colossal might of Persia. It's a story of ambition, betrayal, and incredible heroism that shaped the world we live in today. So, how did this monumental conflict even begin? It all started not in mainland Greece, but across the Aegean Sea, in a region called Ionia, which is in modern-day Turkey. Greek cities there had been flourishing for centuries, but by the late 6th century BC, they had fallen under the control of the expanding Persian Empire. The Persians were generally tolerant rulers, but the fiercely independent Greeks chafed under foreign rule and the Persian-appointed tyrants. In 499 BC, the breaking point was reached. Led by the city of Miletus, the Ionian Greeks rose up in rebellion. They knew they couldn't face the Persian juggernaut alone, so they sent envoys to mainland Greece for help. Sparta, the famously militaristic state, turned them down flat. But Athens, a rising naval power and a fellow Ionian city by ancestry, agreed to help. Along with the smaller city of Eretria, they sent a fleet of ships, and the combined Greek force managed to march inland and burn the Persian regional capital of Sardis. To the Athenians, this might have seemed like a bold strike. To the Persian king, Darius the Great, it was an unforgivable act of aggression. After crushing the Ionian revolt, Darius's mind was set on one thing: revenge. Revenge against Athens and Eretria for daring to meddle in his empire. His first attempt to invade Greece in 492 BC was a disaster. His fleet was wrecked by a storm off the coast of Mount Athos. But Darius was not a man to be deterred by a simple act of nature. 2 years later, in 490 BC, he sent a second, larger force directly across the Aegean Sea. They first sacked Eretria, and then landed on the shores of mainland Greece, at a bay called Marathon, just 26 miles from Athens. The Athenians were in a panic. They were outnumbered, and their Spartan allies were inconveniently celebrating a religious festival and would arrive for several days. It seemed like the end for Athens. But instead of waiting to be besieged, the Athenian general Miltiades convinced his fellow commanders to do the unthinkable: to march out and meet the Persians on the open plain. The Athenian army, composed of citizen soldiers called hoplites, was smaller but heavily armed with long spears and bronze shields. In a brilliant tactical move, Miltiades strengthened the flanks of his battle line. As the battle began, the Persian center pushed back the weaker Greek center, but the strong Greek flanks enveloped the Persian forces, attacking them from the sides and rear. It turned into a slaughter. The Persians broke and fled to their ships. Against all odds, Athens had won a stunning victory. A runner, Phidippides, was sent back to Athens to announce the news. He ran the entire distance, gasped out "Rejoice, we conquer," and then collapsed and died, creating the legend of the modern marathon race. The victory at Marathon was a massive morale boost for the Greeks. It proved that the seemingly invincible Persians could be beaten, but they all knew this wasn't the end. Darius began planning a third, even larger invasion, but a revolt in Egypt and his own death delayed it. The task fell to his son and successor Xerxes the Great, and Xerxes was not going to make the same mistakes as his father. He was going to bring a force so massive, so overwhelming, that the Greeks would have no choice but to submit. For years, Xerxes amassed an army and navy of unprecedented size. Ancient historians like Herodotus claim it was over 1 million strong, which is likely an exaggeration, but even modern estimates suggest a force of 100,000 to 300,000 soldiers and over 1,000 ships. This was an army unlike anything the world had ever seen. To support this massive force, Xerxes even had a canal dug through the Athos Peninsula to avoid the stormy waters that had wrecked his father's fleet. As news of this approaching tidal wave of men reached Greece, panic set in. Many Greek city-states submitted to Xerxes, seeing resistance as futile. But a core group of about 30 states, led by Sparta and Athens, formed an alliance known as the Hellenic League. They were determined to fight for their freedom. The question was, where could they possibly hope to stop such an army? They chose a narrow coastal pass in northern Greece called Thermopylae. It was a natural bottleneck, where the mountains met the sea, and a small force could potentially hold off a much larger one. The command of the ground forces was given to the Spartan king, Leonidas. In 480 BC, Leonidas marched to Thermopylae with his personal bodyguard of 300 Spartans, along with several thousand other Greek allies. When Xerxes arrived, he was baffled. He couldn't believe such a tiny force would dare stand against him. He waited for days, expecting them to flee. They didn't. So, he sent his soldiers forward, wave after wave, and for 2 days, the Greeks held. The narrow pass nullified the Persian numbers. The long spears and superior armor of the Greek hoplites were devastatingly effective against the lightly armed Persian infantry. Even Xerxes' elite troops, the Immortals, couldn't break the Greek line. But then, betrayal. A local Greek named Ephialtes, hoping for a reward, showed the Persians a hidden mountain path that would allow them to get behind the Greek position. When Leonidas learned he was being outflanked, he knew the position was lost. He dismissed the bulk of the Greek army, ordering them to retreat and prepare for the next battle. But he, his 300 Spartans, and a few hundred Thespians and Thebans chose to stay. They were not just fighting to kill Persians, they were fighting to buy time for the rest of Greece to rally. They fought to the last man, a heroic sacrifice that would echo through eternity. Their stand at Thermopylae became a symbol of courage against overwhelming odds, inspiring the Greeks to continue the fight, while Leonidas and his men were making their heroic stand on land. The Greek navy, led by the Athenian politician Themistocles, was fighting a parallel battle at sea, in the Straits of Artemisium. They managed to hold their own, but upon hearing the news from Thermopylae, they retreated south. The path was now clear for Xerxes. He marched south, unopposed, and burned the now evacuated city of Athens to the ground. From the nearby island of Salamis, the Athenians could only watch as their homes and temples went up in smoke. For Xerxes, it seemed like victory was complete. His revenge was achieved. All that remained was to destroy the Greek fleet, which had gathered in the narrow straits between Salamis and the mainland. Themistocles, however, saw an opportunity. He knew the larger, less maneuverable Persian ships would be at a disadvantage in the cramped waters. To ensure the battle happened where he wanted it, he sent a loyal servant to Xerxes with a false message, pretending to be a traitor. The message claimed the Greeks were planning to escape overnight, and that if Xerxes attacked immediately, he could trap and destroy them all. Xerxes fell for the trick. He ordered his fleet to blockade the straits and attack at dawn. Just as Themistocles predicted, the massive Persian fleet became a chaotic jumble in the narrow space. The smaller, more agile Greek triremes, with their bronze rams, rode out and smashed into the Persian vessels. It was carnage. The Persian fleet was decimated. Watching from a throne on a nearby hillside, Xerxes could only look on in horror as his naval supremacy was shattered in a single day. The Battle of Salamis was the turning point of the war. With his navy destroyed, Xerxes feared the Greeks would sail to the Hellespont and destroy his bridge of boats, trapping his army in Europe. He retreated back to Asia with the bulk of his army, leaving his general Mardonius behind with a still large force to finish the conquest the following year. In 479 BC, the final act of the invasion played out. Mardonius tried to lure the Athenians to his side, but they refused. The decisive land battle finally took place near the city of Plataea. It was the largest hoplite battle ever fought. The combined Greek army, under Spartan command, faced Mardonius's forces. After days of skirmishing, the Spartans launched a fierce assault that broke the Persian line. Mardonius himself was killed, and the Persian army dissolved into a panicked rout. On the very same day, across the Aegean at Mycale, the remnants of the Persian navy were destroyed by the Greek fleet. The invasion was over. The threat was ended. The Greek victory was monumental. It ensured the survival of Greek culture and political ideals, concepts like democracy and individual freedom which might have been extinguished under Persian rule, but the war wasn't officially over. In the following decades, the Athenians, now the dominant naval power, formed the Delian League to continue pushing the Persians out of the Aegean and liberating the Ionian Greek cities. This period saw Athens transform into an empire of its own, setting the stage for a new conflict, this time with its old ally, Sparta. The Greco-Persian Wars finally concluded around 449 BC with the Peace of Callias, officially ending a half-century of conflict. From the shores of Marathon to the narrow pass of Thermopylae, from the waters of Salamis to the fields of Plataea, the Greco-Persian Wars were a defining moment in history. A collection of small, quarrelsome city-states had united and, against all expectations, defeated the greatest empire on earth. It's a story that reminds us that courage, strategy, and the will to be free can sometimes triumph over even the most overwhelming odds. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. Let me know in the comments which part of this epic story you find most fascinating. Until next time.